So if you guys are ready, go ahead and climb in bed, get all comfy for me, and we will have a fun, comfy little chit chat. Alright guys, this video is really just a chit chat video. I'll probably do some inaudible whispering in there for you guys, but essentially I just wanted to go ahead and talk with you guys about a couple things. I started this channel quite a while ago. I think it was 2020, right when the pandemic hit. I was at the house a lot and actually had a bunch of stuff happen which made me stop filming for a long time, and then I wanted to start filming again, but I had my daughter and she's finally at the age where well, she doesn't need my 24/7 constant help. She's very independent toddler. She loves to play on her own, and she's such a good baby. And she takes really good naps. So that leaves me some free time to do stuff that I really enjoy, which is ASMR. And even though I did take a huge break, I'm just so excited to actually get back into it. And I finally figured out some of the technical issues I was having when I tried to start it back up again a couple months. My videos I actually thought I posted multiple videos, and then for some reason they just were not uploading. So I did put some content out that never actually got out, and I don't know what happened to them. They're just boom, gone. So I got that figured out, and I'm going to be using some different software, so that'll help. And I shouldn't have any more problems from here on out. And I know you guys are probably like, oh my gosh, like, why'd you take such a long break? Actually, so I moved to Denver from the small town I was from, and we had moved into our first apartment, which was where I first started my ASMR. And that apartment, we didn't really get to look around the area and stuff before we moved. We needed an apartment before we moved out there, since it's like 12 hours away from my small town. So when we got there and we moved in, it was not at all what I expected, because I expected something a little nicer for almost $1,700 a month in rent. And when we got out there, we tried to make it work. It was a little bit of a more I'm gonna use ghetto for lack of a better word, area. And one time I was actually out getting groceries while my partner was at work, and when I got home I had to load all these groceries up multiple flights of stairs because this place did not have an elevator. And that day I also had to do laundry, and all of the washers and dryers in our building completely broken. And not only that, it was like $5 a wash. And I expected that amenity, if I'm paying that much money for an apartment, I should have a working washer and dryer. And on top of that, it shouldn't be costing me $40 every week in order to do the laundry for me and my partner. That was crazy, literally crazy. They're really small washer and dryers anyway, so you have to break up the loads. One normal load for a washer and dryer would be 2 in these ones, and I think $5 is ridiculous. Am I right? Well, then I'm loading up all of these groceries up these flight of stairs, and I go back down to get another round of groceries, and this man, I don't know, he looked like he was not doing his best. I think he was struggling with addiction, but he corners me in between my vehicle and the vehicle was like, okay, like, I'm not gonna tell you what my apartment number is, you know, I don't know you. And he's like, oh, just come follow me back to my place, come to my place. And he's getting really, really close to me, and I was so scared. I didn't know what I was gonna do, and I was like, I'm married, you know, like, and I wasn't married at the time, but I'm trying to tell this man, like, hey, you've got to leave me alone, and he's not backing down. I got so scared that, like, I literally ran into my building, and I made sure the door shut behind me. He's trying to follow me up the stairs. I had to shove past him. So, like, I end up, like, rubbing on him to get past him, and it was just, like, the scariest thing ever. And, like, by the time I made it up the stairs, I was so scared I couldn't go back to my car. So, like, I had a bunch of frozen groceries that were in my car in the middle of summer, and my milk was in there, some fruit that I got, and I'm like, oh, all my food's gonna go bad. I just spent like $400 on groceries. All my food's gonna go bad. I'm stressing. I'm like, and the dude is standing by the door, like, waiting for me. He knows I have to go get more of my groceries, and I just did not know what to do. I was so scared. I looked down through my balcony window like every 10 minutes, and he did not end up leaving for another like 40 minutes. So all my food was sitting in the vehicle in my hot car for like 40 minutes before I got to go down and actually finish getting my groceries. And so I go back down. I finally finished getting my groceries. He had left. It looked like where he went, he lived in like a different apartment building, like same apartment complex but in a different building. And I was like, oh, so I'm gonna be running into this guy like a lot apparently. So I get my last load of groceries up, you know. I tried to save what I could. Some stuff I was like, I don't know if I'm comfortable eating this, so I did throw it away. But you know, like my fruit and everything, my grapes got all shriveled. I mean, it was so hot. I'm like talking 95 degrees, and it was just baking in my car. And then within the same week, okay, it is like the hottest time in Denver right now. The AC in my apartment went out, and I kept putting work orders in, and work orders and work orders and work orders, like multiple work orders at this point. And nobody's coming, and I'm getting so frustrated. Like, it is so hot. My house was like 90 degrees one day. I ended up having to go to Lowe's, and I bought like a $600 freaking plug-in AC. I ended up having to put ice and water in the bottom, you know, to make it blow. And it was like a lot more money. I'm paying like so much a month for this place, and like I have no working washer and dryer. You know, I have neighbors harassing me, and my AC unit is completely out. I was dying of heat. And finally I'm like calling them. I'm like, hey, like, I'm upset, you know, at this point. And I'm like, I keep putting work orders in, and they're like, oh, well, it keeps stating that the work orders are being completed. And I'm like, they're not, because nobody's came to my apartment to fix it. It's still actively broken. Like, they're saying that they're essentially like the working people who are supposed to go fix stuff. They were saying that they were completing the work order, but they weren't. And I was so mad at this point. It had been like 2 months of me putting in work orders at this point, and I like was so angry, but I was trying so hard to be nice to this lady, like, you know, it's not her fault. And she's like, I totally understand, you know, like, we'll get it fixed. She's like, I'm gonna put in a work order for you, and it's gonna be fixed. So she put in a work order, and like I can go in on like my portal and see what they put. And like she had put like, oh, this lady's mad saying that we didn't complete it, you know, just go and enlighten her. Like, I don't think she knows that I can see this, but literally she like wrote a whole thing like, go enlighten this lady, go knock on her door, like, let her know you fixed it, blah blah blah. Nope. 3 days later, a guy comes and knocks on my door, and he's like, oh, I'm here for this work order. And I'm like, okay, great. I was like, my AC's broken in here. And he goes, yeah, we fixed it. And I was like, you fixed it? And I was like, okay, so come over here and look at this. And like I did this, and I was like, and so like I showed him, I'm like trying to get it to work, you know. And he's like, oh, that's weird. And I was like, also, you guys are supposed to not come in my apartment when I'm not here, and I've made sure to be here like during your guys' hours that you're supposed to be completing work orders, and nobody's came. I was like, so you're saying you fixed it, which means you came into my apartment when I wasn't here. Is that what you're telling me? He goes, no, like, I didn't. One of my coworkers said that they came and fixed it, and he said he came and did it while you were here. And I'm like, because if you're gonna do it while I'm not here, I'm supposed to be notified. Like, I'm supposed to be notified, hey, we're gonna be here at this hour, you know? And I was like, and none of that's happened. And he's like back tracing, you know, telling me, oh no, like, I don't know what happened, blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, whatever. So he's like, oh, we'll come back and fix it. I don't have the tools right now. So I'm thinking this dude really showed up to a work order without anything to fix the specific thing that's in the work order that's broken. So I'm frustrated, and he leaves. He's like, oh, like, it should be within the next 3 days, I'll be back. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So he leaves, and 3 days come and go, never shows back up. And at this point I'm getting so upset, and I have to pack my laundry and stuff to my mother-in-law's, which is like all the way across Denver, every single week to do laundry because the washer and dryers are still not fixed. And at this point, you know, like, I'm loading my laundry. I'm super freaking hot. My house is so hot, and I'm going to my mother-in-law's when I see mice and cockroaches in the stairway area. And I'm like, one thing that I will not mess with are roaches and mice. And I'm like, I wonder where they're coming from. So I load my clothes up in my car, and I go back in, and you know, and I'm like trying to like figure out, I'm going all the way down to the area. I go where the washer and dryers are. There is like nasty, moldy water, like nasty, like disgusting water inside of the washer and dryers where these mice are like crawling out of. So the washer and dryers have been down for so long that they're now like literal habitats of rats and cockroaches and stuff. I'm so mad at this point. I'm fuming. I'm like, I'm paying so much for this place that was supposed to be like a luxury apartment, and it is disgusting. It's awful. And I'm like, I've been waiting for 3 months now for my AC to be fixed. All throughout the entire summer, I had no AC, none. And so I like call, and I'm like, they never came back to fix my AC. I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? Like, I'm hiring a lawyer, and we're out of the lease. We're done. I'm done. I don't want to be in this place anymore. And I tell them, I'm like, you guys have a week to fix my AC, or I will be getting lawyers, and I'm gonna be getting part of what I paid each month from the beginning of my lease till now back in rent, because it's so unlivable and all this stuff. And the lady's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, like, I understand, I'm so sorry, like, we want to fix this, we don't want you to leave. And I'm like, no, like, at this point I'm leaving regardless. I was like, but until I find a new place, my AC's gonna be fixed. And then I was like, if you guys try, like, I got a lawyer. I told them, I was like, I'm not gonna be paying all this extra money to break my lease because this is ridiculous. And they're like, you're gonna have to pay like 3 months rent in order to break your lease. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I've been living here all summer with no AC. If you think for a second that I'm gonna have to pay a bunch of money to get out of this lease for a thing that you guys wouldn't fix, on top of me having rodents and bugs because you guys are not fixing the washer and dryer situation downstairs, I was like, no, not happening. And so I got lawyers, and I ended up getting out of my lease without having to pay anything, and we moved. And then during this move, I actually ended up having a lot of health problems, and we just couldn't figure out what it was. And then halfway through these medical problems, you know, I ended up vessels in your eyes and face do not break like that unless you're being strangled. And it was like the worst experience ever. And they were like, well, your nausea and your puking should go away after the first trimester. It did not go away. I was puking and breaking blood vessels in my face almost my entire pregnancy. It was awful. Like towards the third trimester, I started puking less, but I was like passing out, and just like my health problems from before I was pregnant had like tripled, and I just did not know what was going on. Finally, I had been diagnosed with POTS, and I don't know if a lot of you know what that is, but it's like you pass out a lot. Your heart rate just like any activity. Like if I got hot, working out, like so many things that you should be able to do normal, I was not being able to do. Like I just did not have it in me. I pass out after so much activity, or like different things trigger it. A lot of my trigger is heat. Heat is really bad for me. Anytime I get overheated or a little bit hot, I can't even walk without passing out. And during my pregnancy, it was really bad, and I was miserable the entire time. So I actually ended up having to move from Denver back to my hometown to get help. I was pregnant and I was really, really struggling, and I was not able to really take care of myself. So I needed to be around family, and so we moved back to my hometown so that way I could be near my mom and my dad and my family. And they were really, really good to help me throughout my pregnancy. Then after my hectic pregnancy that I had, I went into labor, and oh goodness, I don't share this with a whole lot of people, but my labor and delivery was really, really bad. It was an awful experience. I actually had an entire birth plan that was signed off by my doctor, my OB, and he said it was all okay. But then when I went into labor, he was actually on his like vacation time when I got to the hospital, so I ended up having a completely different OB delivering my child, and they did not go with my birth plan at all. They were not down for it. I wasn't able to labor down. They literally made me lay on my back the entire time. If I tried to move to my side, I kept asking if I could get on my ball, and I was not allowed to. They would not let me. They were like, we want to monitor her, and if you're moving, it doesn't, like, the thing on my stomach can't catch her vitals as good when I'm moving around. And I'm like, people labor this way all the time. I don't understand why it's a problem. And I was getting so mad and so frustrated, and I was crying, and I was like, nothing was going the way I wanted to. And I was like not progressing fast enough, and they were like, we want to give you Pitocin, and I said no multiple times. And finally, they weren't letting me labor down. I wasn't getting anywhere because I wasn't able to labor down. They're just making me lay on my back like I'm gonna be here for hours at this point. I was crying. I was so flustered, and my partner's like, maybe, just try it. They're just trying to help. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I let them give me Pitocin to try and get my labor to continue to go. So about 18 hours into my labor, I finally said yes to getting an epidural, and I ended up getting the epidural. I was devastated that I wasn't progressing any, and then they came in and they're like, your daughter's vitals are kind of dropping, so we're kind of concerned. And I'm like, oh boy, muscles in your spine. I was so scared, so I just was like holding as still as I could for the whole time that I had it. But my left side, I was still feeling my contractions, and I could even move my toes a little bit on my left side of my body. And so we're going back to the C-section, and they're like, okay, we're just gonna like, you're gonna be awake, you and your dad are gonna be right here, and we're gonna put this like thing up and start your C-section. And I'm like, okay. I was like, should I be concerned that I can still feel my contractions on my left side? And the doctor, the OB, was like, no, you're fine. And I was like, are you sure? Because like I can feel it on this side. And he kept telling me, no, you're fine. And he has some tweezers. He's like, see, look. And he pokes my stomach with these sharp tweezers. And he's like, you feel that? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, does it hurt? And I was like, not really compared to my, contractions. And he goes, then you can't feel it. It's really sharp. It would hurt. And I was like, I 100% can feel it. So then, he goes to cut my C-section open, and I felt it. It felt like fire. It was the worst pain. It was so much worse than my contractions, honestly. And I started freaking out. I was screaming. I even moved my leg because it hurt so bad. I jolted, and he goes, oh, because I'm not supposed to be able to move my legs. And so he's like, we have to put her down. We have to put her out. So they put a mask over my face, and then I just remember being like woken up later. They ended up quickly putting me to sleep because I was right, and I did feel them cut me open. And then like while I was asleep, my partner told me what happened. They kicked my partner out. There was like a little window that you can watch from, that my parents were watching from too, and my mom was crying, my partner was crying, and my dad was standing there trying to comfort them. But my partner didn't know what happened. He just remembered me, getting cut, and I was screaming bloody murder that it hurt. I was freaking out, moving on the table. The doctor was upset at me for freaking out, and they kicked him out really fast, and he just remembers me screaming and going from screaming to absolutely nothing. So he was like worried that I died. He was so scared. He had no idea what was going on, and they ended up pulling my daughter out, and my daughter wasn't breathing. The cord had been wrapped around her neck, and they couldn't get her to breathe, and my mom was freaking out. They're like, she's not breathing. My mom was looking at the body language of the nurse, and she was like panicking, the nurse, which made my mom panic more. My mom's like, look, she's like panicking, and my dad's like, it's okay, they're gonna get it. And it was probably about 5 minutes before they got my baby to actually start breathing and like crying. And my mom said that when she finally seen my daughter quit being blue and heard her, she felt so much better relieved, and I'm just glad that I wasn't awake for that, because the amount of panic I would have been having if I would have had to hear and like see my baby not being okay. I'm just glad that I wasn't awake for that, and I know that my partner and my mom probably were so scared at that moment. I appreciate them so much, honestly, and I feel for my partner. He was so scared during the whole thing, and he was amazing. He was by my side the whole time, and he was waiting for me to get out, and the doctor just wasn't coming out. They waited like an hour and a half, and the doctor ended up going around the back way, so nobody was telling them what was going on. And finally, my partner caught the doctor going through to some other rooms and was like, what's going on? Like, is my wife okay? He goes, oh yeah, she's getting sewn up by, some, I don't know, residents or something, and she'll be out soon. And he's like, okay. And so finally, I come out, and I end up waking up after a while, and I get to see my daughter, and that was all great. But one thing that they don't tell